Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be discussing basics of Bootstrap. Okay, Bootstrap is one of the powerful non-parametric tools which can help us in many respects. We would be needing Bootstrap as part of some algorithm also, specifically the random forest. But today we'll be discussing use of Bootstrap just for the inference purpose, means for mainly for getting say confidence interval. Okay. So what is meant by Bootstrap? In fact, I would suggest you should go and look up the meaning of the word bootstrap in dictionary. Okay. So let us go to our usual setup. Suppose I have x1. Okay. Suppose I have x1, x2 and so on, xn be coming from some IID fx. Okay, x1, x2, xn are coming from some IID distribution. So I have a sample and I am interested in estimating some parameter theta, which is actually parameter of this distribution. Now how do we do that? You have some usual formula by which, so you have some statistic gx which can be used to estimate theta. So basically what we are saying is theta hat is gx. Now if you are in the usual setup like say sample population mean, then you know the distribution of this theta. Okay, there is nothing to worry about. You know everything about distribution of this theta hat. But suppose you are in a setup where you don't know much about the distribution of this test statistic. Okay, in fact, if I take something simple as median, you have learned theory about asymptotic distribution of median in say asymptotic inference, but suppose you don't remember that and you still want some guess about the variance of the estimate of median, something like that, then what should you do in such scenario? Okay, so let us see how Bootstrap can help us in such cases. What I'll do is, my current sample is x1, x2, xn. So I have a sample of size n. From these, now I'm going to draw many samples, but I'm going to draw these samples with replacement. Okay. And each sample will be of size n again. Okay. So what do I mean by that? So let me call this as sample 1. We will call it as sample 1. So sample 1 may be something like say x1, x10. Again suppose x1 gets selected, then x2, maybe x21, x33, something like that. And I have to reach till n. Okay. So what I did is, from these x1, x2, xn, I took a sample with replacement. And this is the sample that I have. Size of this sample is also n. Okay. I will do the similar exercise again. I will get another sample and I'll go on doing this b times. So I'll get capital B such sample. The capital B is a very large number, something like say 1000 or sometimes even 5000. Okay. So we do this exercise. So I have S1, S2, SB, many samples. So why I am doing this? See, if I don't know anything about the distribution of these guys, whatever I know is completely contained in this sample. Okay. So the only thing I know about them is that this is kind of my population, because I don't know about anything else. So if suppose this is my population and if I want to infer something about this, I am going to do sampling from this. But the problem is my population size is finite. So if I don't do sampling with replacement, then I am not going to get many distinct samples. Okay. In fact, if I want sample size to be n, I will be getting exactly one sample only, which is same as the population. And why do I want sample size to be n? Because I know that property of any estimator depends on the sample size. So if I am going to draw some conclusions about behavior of my estimator, I need samples of comparable size n. In fact, that's what we discussed yesterday while discussing jackknife also. Okay. So I have this sample of size n, but because I want distinct samples, we have drawn samples with replacement. Now I have some homework for you. So okay, so what is the homework? It's actually a very small homework. Homework is how many such samples, how many distinct samples of size n can be drawn. Okay, of course we are sampling with replacement. So how many distinct samples, and because I am saying samples, the order doesn't matter. So if I have one sample as say x1, x2, x3, let's say my n is 3, and other sample as x3, x2, x1, they are not distinct. So my homework is find how many distinct samples of size n you can get. Okay. Okay, so interest, why this interest? Because we want to see if I want B to be large enough. So if I want B to be say 5000, what should be my n? Means, is there some minimum n beyond which only I can get 5000 samples, up to which I cannot get 5000 samples? Okay, so we want to try this. That's why your homework is this. It's simply a permutation combination exercise, so you should be able to do that. And okay, so I have got the samples. Then what? Now what I have is sample 1, sample 2 up to sample B. Now on the basis of each of these samples, I can compute my theta hat. So this is suppose theta 1 hat. On the basis of this sample, I get theta 2 hat. On the basis of this sample, I get theta B hat. Okay, so I will have, see, the formula for theta hat that I am using is same as what I was doing in the original sample. So for example, if I am talking about median of the original sample, if I want to worry about distribution of median of the original sample, I will compute median of this new sample 1, median of sample 2, median of sample B. These are actually known as bootstrap samples. Okay. In fact, the convention is to denote these estimators by star, just to indicate that they are bootstrap samples. So theta 1 star, theta 1 hat star, theta 2 hat star up to theta B hat star. These are again estimates, but from bootstrap samples. And now this is, this is kind of like having a sample of size B from the distribution of theta hat. Okay, this is kind of like having sample of size B from the distribution of theta hat. Getting what I am trying to say? Whenever we compute any estimator, we don't stop at that point estimate. We are interested in, studying variance of that estimate so that we can give some sort of interval estimate. So that job of interval estimate can actually be done now by this sample. Because originally, if I know only theta hat and if I don't have any theoretical knowledge about variance of theta hat, then I cannot say anything about the confidence interval for theta hat. I cannot actually give interval estimate of theta hat. But now, this bootstrap is going to do that job for me. So what I'll say is my theta 1 hat star, theta 2 hat star up to theta B hat star is like a sample of, this is like a sample of size B. This is like a sample of size B from the distribution of theta hat. Okay. So what can I do from this? I can compute variance of these theta stars, okay, by usual formula, 1 upon b summation I going from 1 to b theta I hat star, theta hat stars I should say, minus theta bar, hat bar, whatever, star, okay, square. So I can estimate variance by this method, okay. Another option is, if the thing is okay, fine, I got variance, but just knowing variance I can't compute confidence interval. I need to know something about distribution of these guys, because then only I can say something about the actual variance. If I plot histogram of these, or if I plot density, something like kernel density, and if it looks like this, if it looks, you know, bell shaped, then I can probably safely say, okay, it says it's more or less normal. In fact, we can check fitting normal distribution to this, and then we can get confidence interval using that normal approximation, okay. But suppose I am not that lucky, okay, I am not that lucky and the distribution is not bell shaped, I have maybe something like this, then what to do? I still want interval estimate, but okay, I have an easier way out. We can make use of what is known as quantiles. What I'll do is I'll compute say 2.5th and 97.5th percentiles of this theta 1 hat star, theta 2 hat star and theta b hat star. Okay, I can compute 2.5th and 97.5th percentiles of these, and let me call that as say alpha 1 and alpha 2. Alpha 1 is say 2.5th percentile, alpha 2 is 97.5th. Then this can become my CI for original theta hat. Sorry, not theta hat, I'm sorry, original theta. Okay. So okay, so this is actually aim of Bootstrap. I can do more about estimates, especially in the domain of interval estimation, even without assuming any knowledge about the distribution of the theoretical distribution of the estimate. Okay, now why is it called as non-parametric method? Because we are not assuming anything about the distribution. Of course, there are some rigorous theoretical conditions under which only all these things are good. Means, what do I mean by good? So this interval is good. Good in the sense it gives me desired coverage. Okay, it gives me desired coverage only if my underlying distribution is well behaved. Okay, but so my theta hat that I am interested in, if it's an extreme order statistic, things may not go so well. Okay, because we know, you might have seen in the asymptotic class also, that the behavior of extreme order statistics, things are much more messy. Okay, but for things like median and all, Bootstrap can give you good approximation. Okay, this is non-parametric Bootstrap. So I did not write anywhere, but this is non-parametric Bootstrap. Similarly, we can have something called as parametric Bootstrap also. Okay, so what is meant by parametric Bootstrap? In fact, parametric Bootstrap is quite easier to understand conceptually. So suppose I have x1, x2, xn coming from say exponential theta. Okay, I have x1, x2, xn coming from exponential theta. Now let me say I am interested in distribution of log of theta. Okay, so I want to estimate say log of theta. I know you all know the delta method and you can get things and so on, but suppose I don't want to go into theory at all. So my interest is in log of theta. You know how to estimate theta. I can estimate theta as hat as 1 by x bar. This is one possible estimate, because we know exponential with theta means mean is 1 by theta. So what I'll do in parametric Bootstrap, I will make use of the fact that I know the distribution of this quantity. Okay, I know the distribution is exponential of the original sample. So I can make use of that fact. Non-parametric bootstrap doesn't make use of that. In non-parametric bootstrap, what I'll do, I will take a sample from this only. I won't use this information. But because I have this information, maybe using that information might improve things. Okay, so what I'll do, I will first get theta hat, okay, from this. So I got theta hat. Suppose my theta hat turns out to be say 1.2. Suppose. Then I want to get S1, S2, SB because that is entire bootstrap business. Of course, bootstrap means I have to get samples. But now instead of getting samples with replacement from this, what I'll do is I will take one sample from exponential 1.2 again of size n, that I'll call as sample 1. Then I'll get another sample of size n from exponential 1.2, that will be my sample 2, and so on. I will get b samples. Now from each of these samples I can estimate this log of theta hat. So log of theta 1 hat star, log of theta 2 hat star, and so on, log of theta b hat star. Okay, once I have estimated these, this is what I want. Then I can follow rest of the procedure as in non-parametric bootstrap. Okay, so the only difference between parametric and non-parametric bootstrap is that in non-parametric I did not know anything about the distribution of these guys. Okay, so I was using just the sample itself as my population and I was drawing samples from them. Whereas in parametric bootstrap, if I know something about the original distribution, I will use that information instead of getting sample from this. Okay, these are just basic concepts. Of course, I will be taking couple of examples. In fact, for example, how the bootstrap can work in say regression setup. But right now I will be stopping here. Try to think about these issues and we'll continue in the next lecture. More details about the bootstrap. Okay, thank you.